Hi everyone, my name is Valentina Soto. I am 19 years old and I'm a first semester English pedagogy student. In this video, I am going to talk about my vision of English as an English learner and future teacher. What about you, Maite?
Well, as she said, my name is Maite. I'm 19. I'm an English pedagogy student at UDP. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how understanding the past can help us become better English teachers. What about you guys?
Hi, my name is Isidora Valenzuela. I'm an English pedagogy teacher, and today I'm going to talk about my personal experiences as a future teacher of English in Chile. What about you?
Hi everyone, my name is Paulina Silva. I am 19 years old. I'm studying English pedagogy at the University Diego Portales. In my part, I am going to talk about how I use English to reflect on my learning journey around Chile.
Well, in this semester, I learned about the patience that we need to have as future teachers with our future students, and because everyone has their own way to understand and learn things. In my experience in my high school, as an ex high school student, I learned with visual things. So when I read in reading classes, I realized that English teachers in Chile in 1970 at Tirtama University didn't take as a bad factor the dictatorship or the socio-economic situation. Well, an English teacher, well, no, pedagogy careers at that time were discredited. So I found it in when I went to the museum. Um, when I heard the audio, I realized that the teachers have to be there to the students because if they feel ashamed or shy, they need to be there for them. So I want to be like that teacher that understands the backgrounds of the students. What about you, Maite?
So I think my question was a bit more about the past. And I believe understanding the past is essential because language education is obviously deeply tied to historical, social, and political context. And I think by analyzing how English pedagogy has evolved, we can make informed and critical decisions in our classrooms nowadays. And it is said in the text, teacher training used to be really rigid and enforcing a single pronunciation standard, was received pronunciation. And I think understanding this pressure that comes from reveals where linguistic insecurity comes from. Diego from the audio mentions being really trying to make a perfect American accent and him not being able to. And I think acknowledging this guides us to actively reject the perfect native speaker myth. And it allows us to instead value linguistic diversity and embrace our students' Chilean identity. And as we could see at the museum, different methodologies have changed, adapting and evolving to the needs of our society. And I think history gives us a critical perspective. It shows that we cannot be just instructors, and we need to be social and cultural agents that evolve with the passing of time. And I think it shows how we can make um, a bigger and stronger and empathetic professional identity in the future. What about you, Isidora?
Talking about my personal experiences, when I was at school, I used to feel very nervous speaking English because I was so afraid of making mistakes, and I think that this will help me understand how my students can feel when they are learning a new language. And in their listening exercise, Marta says there is no single perfect English that people should imitate, and teachers need to respect the diversity of accents. This idea is important to me because I want my students to feel confident using English. In the reading, show that English teacher has become more communicative, not only focus on grammar. I think this is important because students need opportunities to use English with confidence. And during the museum visit, I saw an old educational material and teaching methods that have changed over time. And teachers need to adapt uh, to this, to this. And these experiences help me understand what kind of teacher I want to become. What do you think, Paulina?
Okay, so in this semester, I learned so much about how this language can be so important in my life and in how I can reflect it in Chile. At reflecting on my learning process, this language has me realize throughout my life how I become aware of my abilities and difficulties with myself. I realize which methods work for me and which don't. For example, if I wasn't good at public speaking, I was very shy and I couldn't speak in front of others. Since in Chile, English is overlooked, people make fun of about it. I feel like I wasn't understood at all. And like Diego says in this and the listening, you can use English for so much things that you can reflect on your own, like thinking deeply about my own learning journey and my role as a future teacher. Every time I speak in English, I think I learn about the mistakes I did so I can improve it and teach it in a better way to my students. The text covering the years from the 60s to 1973 discussed the concept of standard English, which involved stereotypes regarding correct English, such as specific accents. And during my visit to the museum, I realized how much education and teaching methods have evolved over the years. The opportunities we have now are far greater than those available to students in the past. Studying English also opens more doors depending on how effectively you apply it in the real world.
To close my ideas regarding to the reflection question, in my case, one important thing that I learned this semester is that there is no very accent in English because every country has their own identity because language and accent are like mixed. Um, well, identity in language is important because it marks the sense of belonging of the country or community. And well, and the another thing that I found it, I think is interesting and important is that I need to have my identity as a future teacher because it's important to differentiate myself from others and not to be a robot. What about you, Maite?
So my conclusion to this first semester is that I learned a lot about history of the language. Some I knew, some I didn't. I wasn't aware that the British had such a big impact on us. Um, and another thing that changed my perspective a lot was obviously learning all of this. And I used to really enjoy English and thought of it as a tool. But nowadays, I've realized that people view it as more of a way to judge others based on their accent or where they're from. And also, I think as a future teacher, I would like to respect the history and bring a real social conscience into what I'm obviously teaching and recognizing the history of it all. What about you, Isidra?
During the course, we have done activities that allow me understand that English is used by people with diverse backgrounds and cultures. Learning this helped me understand the importance of respecting diversity and creating a safe and positive learning environment. Also, one other important thing that I've learned is that teacher is not only about teaching grammar or vocabulary. Teachers can also help their students feel confident learning the language. What about you, Pauli?
Okay, so using English for reflection allows you to learn the language while thinking about your own process. For example, it is like a dual exercise. You practice English and at the same time develop a critical perspective on how teaching is conducted in Chile. You should never feel ashamed when you are learning. Mistakes teach you more as you continue climbing toward your goal. Like me, for example, now I can present in front of others, like I said before, without feeling fear of making mistakes. You need to focus on yourself, even though Chile doesn't give the same importance as other countries. Yeah, I want to be a good teacher, and I will be it.